pitfalls in writing of military history. Even today, in this age of so called knowledge and Google and media and so many facilities to help with research, still the Journal of Military History of the USA, still they cannot check the facts and even verify the facts, and still habitually and continuously publish absolute factual nonsense in their various issues. It's a quarterly journal, and I've been subscribing to the journal since 1995. The shocking mistakes which I read in this journal, in the articles published in this journal, are simply mind boggling. Now, this post refers to the Journal of Military History number 69, July 2005, an article, Military Synthesis in South Asia, Armies, Warfare and Indian Society, 1740 to 1849, by Kaushik Roy. Now, the Journal of Military History claims that they have got 3 referees who check every article and pronounce Solomon's judgments, and this Journal of Military History of USA, published from Lexington, Virginia Military Institute, regards itself as, the Word of God, omnipotent, a journal which can make no mistakes. Absolute nonsense. Now, we will discuss this article full of mistakes and shocking mistakes and committed by the Journal of Military History of the USA, which claims to be the ultimate word on military history. Roy makes simple mistakes which is shocking, like he gives a new name as well as date of conquest to eminent British East India Company General Charles James Napier on page 683 and calls him William Napier. Now, this was published in the journal, this shocking mistake. As you can see, both name of general and year of the battle is wrong. As you can see, now this article in this Journal of Military History says, now the date is wrong and the name is wrong. Just see the mistakes. In 1847, now absolute nonsense, because the battle took place in 1843. But Journal of Military History, Kaushik Roy says that this happened in 1847. Wrong by 4 years. Now he says Major General William Napier invaded Sindh. Now absolute nonsense, because it was Sir Charles James Napier who invaded Sindh. It was not Major General William Napier. He changes the name of the general. How and why, we will discuss that also. Why Roy committed this stupidity, now we will note that also. Now just see, date and year of battle is also wrong. As you can see, Kaushik Roy in the Journal of Military History falsely claims they also constructed a mud embankment on 10th September 1847. Absolute nonsense. The battle never took place on 10th November 1847, but in 1843. Now again, the serious factual mistake, Now again, another mistake, Roy says, 1st Sepoy Regiment. There was no 1st Sepoy Regiment in the Battle of Meani. The battle which Roy is referring to incorrectly was called 1st Grenadier Regiment. But Journal of Military of History of USA can publish any nonsense. I mean, they are Americans, so they are infallible. Now, shocking, totally avoidable, simple factual mistakes which were not even noted by the super brilliant 3 Solomon anonymous referees of the Journal of Military History. As you can see, the journal we are referring to is number 69, July 2005. As you can see, my simple question to Society of Military History USA remains as to what are your referees doing when they cannot even check such simple mistakes. This is Journal of Military History of the USA. Now, this is not just gross lethargy and criminal intellectual incompetence on part of Kaushik Roy and the 3 Solomon referees of Journal of Military History, but more than that. If year of was printed 1847 instead of 1843 by typing error, how is it that the actual date of Battle of Miani here referred to was changed from 17th February to 10th September? This is the question one can ask the Journal of Military History. But they are always typical American excuses. We can't publish your letter because this was 2005. So if Journal of Military History commits a mistake in 2005 and somebody points it out in, let's say, 2020 or 22, so it is no longer going to be acknowledged. Typical bureaucratic third-rate excuses. The second shocking part of Kaushik Roy's intellectual rape of history is that he invents a new unit of Indians fighting at Miani which he calls 1st Regiment. Whereas in reality there was only 12th Regiment of Bombay Infantry at Miani as clearly and specifically listed in British India Company records. We will get more on this in detail. This battle took place in 1843 and British East India Company's army list freely available clearly lists the Indian Infantry Battalion as 12th Regiment. Now we will discuss more in detail. How such simple facts can escape the referees of Society of Military History is shocking. How Kaushik Roy could be so disastrous with his facts and how the all Solomon referees of Journal of Military History could be so incompetent is mind-boggling. On page 683, Roy changes Sir Charles Napier's name to William Napier and changes year of operations in Sindh from 1847 to 1843. Other analytical faults are respectfully pointed out in a detailed review published in the Scribe's publication, Military History Review, published as hard copy on the Amazon. As you can see, now we will go into greater detail. Now, the interesting part is that only 1st Grenadiers was not there. There was 12th Regiment of Bombay Infantry, there was 25th Regiment of Bombay Infantry. How Kaushik Roy could be so disastrous? Now, military history is more complicated than the dumb referees of Journal of Military History of USA can understand. Now I will go to the reason why, what the 1st Grenadiers did and what Roy totally missed. Now 1st Grenadiers was told to attack a particular place and their dumb CO Clibban, brave but dumb, and as Sir Charles Napier's brother described him in his book, 1st Bombay Grenadiers, some 25% of Sir Charles Napier's fighting force, did hardly any fighting and lost only 1 killed. Had Sir Charles Napier lost Battle of Miani, First Bombay Grenadiers would have been blamed. However, since Napier won the battle, the unit was let off politely. However, Kaushik Roy fails to note that 1st Bombay Grenadiers was not given the battle honour Miani as a punishment by Sir Charles Napier. Now, this was an important fact, but Roy totally missed it. And Journal of Military History of USA also, dumb referees, they forgot. As you can see, this is the passage from History of Sir Charles Napier's Conquest of Sindh, written by his brother, Lieutenant General William Napier. Now, since Roy read this book, so he changed Charles Napier's name to William Napier, although it was Charles Napier who was leading the British Army. So, History of Sir Charles Napier's Conquest of Sindh states, but on the left flank, Clibborn, although not deficient in courage or talent, was unable to grasp the points of battle, and instead of storming Kotri, withdrew his grenadiers nearly out of fire. Thus, a fourth of the fighting men were rendered useless. Now, this fact is totally missed by Journal of Military History and Roy. As you can see, of course, when the battle honours were granted, as you can see, Battle Honour Miani, Battle of 17th February 1843, a British unit, 22nd Foot, which fought the battle, was granted the Battle Honour. Poona Auxiliary Horse was granted, Sindh Irregular Horse was granted, Jacob's Horse was granted, 12th Regiment of Bombay Native Infantry was granted, 25th Native Infantry was granted, 2nd Bombay Sappers and Miners was granted, 9th Bengal Light Cavalry was granted the battle honour. But 1st Grenadiers, what Kaushik Roy falsely calls 1st Native Regiment, 1st Regiment of Grenadiers, White Horse, was not granted the battle honour. Although it fought the battle, but it was not granted the battle honour because its commanding officer did not follow the orders and did not attack Kotri. Now, this point is totally missed by Roy. These are failings, which a military historian has to point out. But, Journal of Military History can do anything. This Bengali from Jadavpur University can do anything. Infallible. Nobody can, criticize them. Nobody can point out their faults. And when I write a letter to Journal of Military History of USA, they say, oh, the article was published in 2005, so it's too late. I mean, you are committing basic mistakes and you are, committing intellectual dishonesty and not agreeing to publish a letter critiquing your failures. This is sheer intellectual dishonesty on part of the Journal of Military History of the USA. As you can see, now another serious failing of Roy was that he failed to note, although the article was on the military capability of the British Indian Army, he failed to note that the British company's commanding officers of the two battalions, 12th and 25th Bombay Native Infantry, were so bold and so courageous that they led the advance ahead of their battalions, and both of these commanding officers of 12th Regiment of Bombay Infantry and 25th Regiment of Bombay Infantry were actually killed in Miani. But Roy, maybe he didn't read properly, he didn't even mention it. So this short podcast, somebody may feel, why doing these podcasts. This is just to point out how these American journals like Society of Military History, Journal of Military History are committing major faults, and when their faults are pointed out, they cite flimsy excuses like it's too late to publish it. Absolute nonsense.